me, you could find out. Shawty bad, but I don't need her right now. Out she busy cooking in my hideout. She a girl, but she chilling with me somehow. Nah, stick with me, you could find out. Make up.
You know, the more I read Kingdom, the more I realize there's no single way to define strength in this story. It's not just brute force, it's not just brains, there are multiple elements at play here. And it got me thinking, but if we try to break it all down, so if you would indulge me for a moment, I want to share with you the way I've personally come to understand the different kinds of power in the kingdom. Not as some official tier list or ranking, but more like a lens through which I view the story and helps me appreciate it that much more than I already do. There are 4 power systems I've come to see in Kingdom: martial might, strategic brilliance, breadth, and weight. Each of these is powerful in its own right, and the way they mix or clash can shape a battlefield. So let's go through them one by one. Martial might is probably the most straightforward. It's physical strength and skill with weapons. You could say it's the rawest form of power in Kingdom. And when I think of martial might, the first name that comes to my mind is Hoken. In the world of Kingdom, there are these unique individuals called Path Seekers. Path Seekers are mysterious individuals who abandon civilization to walk a single path to its absolute end, whether it's strength, wisdom, or something else entirely. They cut off ties with the world, devoting their entire existence to mastering one thing. Hoken was taken from his village as a child by a path seeker and raised deep in the mountains, cut off from the world. There he walked the path of strength, facing wild beasts, surviving harsh nature, and forging his body into a weapon. Over time, he shedded his humanity and declared himself the Bunshin, the god of war. He didn't chase fame or army, only strength, and through that brutal, lonely path, he rose to become the strongest martial force in the story. But even with all this power, Hoken isn't invincible. His clashes against people like Big Hill and Oki show that strength alone can be pushed back by something else. Something a bit harder to define, but I'll do my best to define that later on in the video. But for now, let's move on to the next form of strength I see in the story. Strategy is the art of planning and directing military operations or achieving a specific goal through careful long-term manipulation, decision-making, and execution. Well, to be honest, strategists in Kingdom are honestly the most terrifying opponents to go up against. Because you're not just fighting them, you're fighting a system built to exploit your weaknesses while enhancing your opponent's strength, all before you can even understand what's going on. Well, a good example of this is Genpo from Empire's 4 Heavenly Kings. His fight against Shin and Ohon made me understand just how terrifying a top-tier strategist can be. The way he controlled the battlefield, how he could predict and punish their every move, felt like watching a sadistic old man toying with lives like it was nothing. And then we've got minds like Kanki and Ebuk who just take it to a whole new level. Honestly speaking, facing strategists is like walking into an exam room thinking that it's going to be an easy one, only to realize the lecturer brought one thing you didn't read about, and somehow the guy sitting next to you already finished the exam, rewrote the entire marking guide, and bribed the invigilator with a chapati just for fun. That's the level unfair I'd be dealing with when fighting the strategist. But anyway, after looking at this, let's move on to the next form of strength I see in the Kingdom story, something most Kingdom fans probably saw coming from a mile away. This one's a little tougher to talk about, mostly because it taps into strength via one of the more darker paths of strength in the story. It's a fighting style used by members of Kyokai's clan, a technique sharpened for assassination. The entire style is built around breath. Not just breathing to stay calm, but a kind of meditation that takes you beyond your limits. From what we have seen, there are 2 ways someone can tap into it. If a person trains to go deeper with their breath, they can unlock insane speed, precision, and strength, turning into an absolute monster in close-quarter combats. But there's a catch: they can only hold this state for short bursts of time. While on the other hand, those who focus on widening their breath make it more stable and consistent. They don't quite hit the same highs, but they can stay in the heightened state for longer. Basically a trade-off of power versus endurance. Now, this is where it gets brutal for me. The training starts with two girls raised like sisters. They both learn the same breath technique, all while knowing one day they'll have to fight to become the next head of the clan, the Shio. But it's not just any fight. After years of growing up together, they're thrown into a ritual where sister pairs battle to the death against other pairs until only one remains. And even then, to truly unlock the monstrous strength of this technique, one of the two sisters must kill the other with their own hands. That moment, the pain of killing someone they love, someone they trained with, is what pushes them over the edge. That grief becomes the fuel, it sharpens their technique and turns them into something else entirely. And when someone fully masters the breath technique, they're nearly unstoppable when it comes to close quarter combat. I may have skimmed over a few details about this technique, but if you want a full breakdown of the technique, let me know in the comments. And if you're not yet subbed to the channel, now is the perfect time. Don't worry, I'll wait before I move on to the last source of power in the story. Hold on. Good. Let's keep moving. This last one is something called weight, a concept first put forward into words by General Morgul. And the way I've come to see it, it's everything a person brings with them onto the battlefield. Their past, their ideals, the people they've lost, the promises they've made, it all stacks up and becomes the strength with which they fight. Great generals in the story are solid examples of what it means to draw strength from weight. But I think Shin is the best example I could possibly use to explain it. It starts off with a simple dream to become a great general of the heavens. But as the story goes on, that dream gets heavier. He carries Hyo's will, fights for Sei's vision. He inherits the legacy of Oki and Duke Hyo. He leads his Hishin unit and even bears the weight of fallen enemies like Mangaku. With every step, Shin becomes more than just a swordsman or a commander. He becomes a vessel for everything and everyone that shaped him. That's why even though the story is full of powerful warriors, Shin stands out as an unstoppable force. Not because he's the strongest, but because he refuses to fall under the weight he carries. The best example of this is his fight against Hoken. Hoken, the pinnacle of martial might, a man built like. And then there's Shin, the battlefield commander with no business matching him in pure skill. But when they clash, Shin manages to get the better of him. Hoken fights alone, trying to prove the strength of the individual, while Shin fights with the voices of those who have fallen, the dreams of those living, and the hopes of an entire kingdom on his back. And that's what gives him the edge over Hoken in this fight. So yeah, if you're wondering who the strongest in Kingdom is, I honestly do not know. It's hard to say, but if you want a more traditional power scaling list, there's that list with some Kingdom characters and their scores in terms of strength. But for me, this is what I look at when I'm gauging how strong an opponent is. Martial might, strategic brilliance, breadth, and weight. Makes it easier to digest and much more fun to read. Anyway, that's how I say it. Thanks for sticking with me. If you enjoyed this, my next video is gonna be about the stock system we came up with in our beautiful anime and manga community as weebs and otakus. A fun way of looking at character growth and value. So be sure to look out for that and see you next time.